Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our advanced Bible study for Wednesday night. It's 28th of July, 2021. We're going to be dealing with some chapters out of Jasher later on in the class. I'm asking everybody to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Okay, this is a non-Messianic channel. We're dealing with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, and the Torah is the first 5 books of Moses. So shalom and welcome to everyone. And we're going to do our moment of silence, a prayer, psalms, and then the current events, and then we're going to go forward from there. Oh Lord, we come before Thee at this time that You have given unto us, oh Lord, and we are thankful for the knowledge and the understanding that You have given unto us up until this point. We seek Thy face on this Wednesday night, that You shower us with peace, enlightenment, and a sense of togetherness. Oh Lord, we see Thine hand in the affairs of the world, and we know and understand that what You have spoken in the past through Your prophets will surely come to pass. Turn not Thy face from us, but hearken unto this plea, O Lord, hearken and do. All praises to You. Okay. Okay. So we do the Psalms. I'm doing Psalm 67. So let all the people praise Thee. God be merciful on us and bless us and cause His face to shine upon us. Shelah, that Thy way may be known upon the earth, Thy saving help among all nations. Let the people praise Thee, O God. Let all the people praise Thee. O let the nations be glad and sing for joy. For Thou shalt judge the people righteously and govern the nations upon the earth. Shelah, let the people praise Thee, O God. Let all the people praise Thee. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our God, our own God, shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear Him. That was Psalm 67. And it's let all the people praise Thee. Okay, so with that being said, anybody got any current events? Something you want to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
They're having the hearings on the Capitol, what happened January 6th.
Right.
Yeah, and I was listening to some of those Capitol police officers testifying, and it wasn't no coincidence that they said that all the Trump supporters, it was just a sea of red. And
Right.
I remember hearing that the Capitol building, that was like the safest place you could ever be.
Right.
So now that, that place is no longer safe, you know that it's going down.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. If that's been breached, then anywhere can be breached.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna play this right here.
Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways, beloveds, and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms, as so much is happening across the world, beloveds. The end time plagues and the end time, floods are literally here, especially when we look at Babylon. Babylon is falling. Babylon has fallen. And we're now starting to see the physical, ramifications of that, or the physical proof of that, if you want to put it like that. I'm sure a lot of you are aware that crazy floods that have not been seen in like 1,000 years hit Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Switzerland, and like it was 7 countries. I can't remember the other 2, and they caused absolute devastation. We even had the chancellor of Germany saying she visited the scenes of the crime. You can see some of the pictures here, and she was like, it was terrifying. How the rain came, how the floods came, and there was so many comments that were happening, and there was one lady that went right viral in Kenya, this German woman who was like, "This is something that happens in a third world country. We don't see people dying from floods in Germany in 2021." Like it was. Okay, she might have been emotional, she might have been over, but it was shocking, and thousands are still missing. Homes are destroyed, etc., etc. Is this what they're calling climate change? And so, they say the death toll has exceeded 180, since the devastating floods. And now they're even saying that Europe should actually prepare for more of this as the world heats up. Now, I'll find you in the comments to kind of get deeper into what's really going on. But beloveds, everything is changing. Mama Earth is cleansing herself. Everything is being renewed and restored. And there's a lot when they talk about climate change. These are one of the reasons that they want people locked in, because now they're talking of climate change lockdowns. Because that sun is shining, beloveds. The world is heating up. And when you look at the devastation, the officials actually have been warning that because so many people are missing, the death toll could go up. And this isn't just Western Europe that's been hit by floods. So China has been experiencing crazy weather as well. They've had, I think it's in Henan province or something like that. They've had crazy floods as well. And unfortunately, some people even died in the metro when they got flooded out. And you guys should really look at, there's many, many channels. There's one called Heart, which has been, they just show all the floods in different countries. Don't rely on mainstream media to tell you what's going on right now. Otherwise, you'll miss the full picture. Yeah, and you'll miss the full picture. So, in China, there's also been crazy floods in Henan province. I don't know if you guys have been following the story of the elephants that have been making this pilgrimage from like the south of China to the north of China. It looks like they're, they always say animals move to higher ground. Do they sense a tsunami coming, etc., etc.? Because China flattened a lot of mountains, etc., etc., to build a lot of cities and really messed with nature. So it will be interesting to keep an eye out on that. But this should be telling you something, beloveds. In Canada, the BC, British Columbia area has actually declared a state of emergency as wildfires surge. They say over 300 wildfires are actively burning across the western province of British Columbia, which saw record heat last month. Let's not forget that hundreds actually died from heat waves never experienced before in Canada last month. And they even had to introduce cooling centers to help people, avoid the extreme heat. I think it hit like 49 degrees or something like Celsius or something crazy like that. So now they're experiencing wildfires. Beloveds, if we go over to Australia, there's been a mice plague. I don't know, I'm sure you've been seeing these stories. And there was even a story of how this mice like gorged out this woman's eye. Because mice, they like bite and then they blow. How how does a mouse gouge out your eye? But Australia is dealing with millions and millions of mice. They're saying it's because of, it's actually a plague of mice. It's devastating their food crops, and, mice are extremely smelly and acidic. And get this, mice actually first appeared in Australia with the arrival of the British colonialists all the way back in 1788. Don't forget, Australia was where they used to send the prisoners of, like, if you didn't want to keep the prisoners in the divided kingdom, they'd send them to Australia. But these days the continent, they say, has seen population boom and die off every few years. But they're saying because of the extreme drought, and then they had like a bumper harvest, all these are reasons. But beloveds, they can't get rid of the mice because they can't kill them. And they're everywhere. Like millions of mice invade the homes. If you haven't seen those videos, definitely check it out. But what is happening, beloveds? What is happening? And what should we be doing what should we be doing in this season? I think I've repeated myself, but same message with a new voice, the new voice of today. I know a lot of you know what's happening. These are the signs, beloveds. These are the signs. We give thanks and praise to the Most High that no extreme weather is being experienced across Africa at this point. It shows that spiritual prayer shield is holding, beloveds, from many, many things, because we are not alone, and we're not walking in these end times alone. But what is really going on? You can put it in code in the comments. I'll find you there. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. The plagues and floods are here. They told us about this in Revelations. I keep saying this is the Revelations is not the only end time story. It's the one they've doctored. If the whole Bible is doctored, we can't believe that Revelations was left, as the truth of what is going to happen in the end times. There's a lot that's been missed out. But we're seeing the floods hitting Western Europe. And something strange is going on in the divided kingdom, because they just ended every restriction, mask wearing, everything related to the pandemic. I think because they say they've gotten the herd immunity. I think 70 or 80% of the population has been, vaccinated. But now people are like, what's happening there? Because the numbers are going up. It's just like, beloveds, you need to know what time it is. Prophetically, as a seer, like Babylon is falling. I don't know how else you want it to show. Because you see, Babylon is a state of mind first, and mentally Babylon has fallen. It's just that so many people are still holding on to it. But spiritually, the war has been won. Babylon has fallen, and now we're starting to see it physically. As the earth renews herself for this new age, she's a living, breathing, sentient being. And she called in for reinforcements so that she could make this transition. So, beloveds, this should be like alarm bells to you to get out of Babylon and get on the mothership. I think I said this in like 2018 or 2019, that Africa is the ark. There's been like crop failures across the world, beloveds. That's what now they were saying in Western Europe, like their harvest is affected. And it's happened across the world. The major suppliers of food to the world, even China, have been hit. So that should tell you, like, the Hunger Games things are coming, beloveds. Please be preparing. If you are in Babylon right now, get out of the cities, because that's where the energy of Babylon is strongest. Get into a rural area and then defend and protect yourself. You need to start watching, like, there's different really good preppers out there. Canadian prepper is one, city prepper is another one, full spectrum prepper is another one. If you have any preppers that that really, they prepared their communities. And you should look at how the Mzungus are acting in Babylon. They're preparing for like some kind of massive fallout, the ones that are really getting ready. The rich ones are already in their bunkers. They've been in their bunkers for like a year, waiting for the fallout to happen. Because the fallout is going to be climate-wise, beloveds. There must be change. And for new to come, the old must fall away. We are seeing the end of the old world order. Someone put that in the comments the other day, and I was like, nice. So what should we be doing? Get out of her, beloveds. Get out of Babylon, beloveds. Even if you can't physically, because now they're making it harder, you know, with the whole unemployment. People don't have access to as much, cash, which is energy, etc., etc. So they're making it hard, but you have to realize we're in supernatural times. And literally, you are a magnet to what you think and feel. And you can draw things to yourself, beloveds. And it's not easy because we've not been trained to do it. But that thing of like, you can draw your escape to you. You can draw your escape funds to you. You can draw, the money that you need for land to you. And I know a lot of youth in Africa are saying, what should we be doing? Beloveds, we can see, I talked about how France had withdrawn. It looks like they're getting ready to create the super UN force. Stories for other days. I'll probably do a show on that. But if you can get out, get out. If you can't, move away from the cities. Although now they're even training their police force on how to manage the rural population. Stock up on food, stock up on water. And if you're seriously legit about not being part of the experiment, then you need to make sure that there is nothing that would pull you back to Babylon. Everything you're doing should not involve you going to an office, a stadium, any Babylon system. And the thing is, they've made it so reliant on it. But if you're still watching football, if you're still going to the movies and caring about, going to concerts, etc., etc., that time is up for now, beloveds. You're gonna miss. You're in another reality that is not even there anymore. Prepare yourselves. Prepare your children. Let them know what is going on. Don't let them follow blindly. Let them know that these are the end times that our ancestors and ancient ones talked about. Tell the children the truth. Don't keep them in this la la land like everything's going to be okay. Nothing is going to be okay. Nothing is returning to normal. The new normal is the new world order, beloveds. So that's what you need to do. And for those of you who call me and say you really want to leave, but you don't have this, you don't have that, physically you're here, all these things. Start spiritually and mentally. Like, beloveds, it seems so simple and basic that most people would ignore it, but it's all in the mind. Get your mind right. Like, that should be your number one priority. And if you can't move, if you're stuck where you are, then get wise. Get your security together, whether you're in an apartment or whatever situation you're in. Stock up on food. Don't keep your food out in the open. Like, they've even they did a dress rehearsal for the zombie apocalypse. What do you think is coming, beloveds?
Okay. Any comments?
She's on point.
Okay. Yeah. Got that right. Yeah. Like you said, look at all the stuff that's happening. I mean, can't put two and two together on that. There's something wrong. Yeah. Okay. We got one more, and then we're going to the question Q&A, and then going to the lesson. It's another sign right here. I think this is gonna go down soon.
Hello and welcome, beloved, to Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms, in your own narrative, in your own rhythm, especially at such a time as this, and that you're diving deeper into every unraveling situation across Africa and across the melanated nations, because so much is happening right now. South Africa's popping off, Swaziland is popping off, Cuba is now having a revolution, and to top it all off, Jamaica has now, in a historic move, demanded reparations from Britain over slavery. Now, I always find like they're preparing the petition. That's what they said here. I'll definitely share the details. This happened a couple of weeks ago, so many of you might have already heard about it. But for those who haven't, basically, Reuters actually reported that Jamaican lawmakers were preparing to submit a petition seeking reparations over the enslavement of Africans that generated fortunes for British merchants. They say the number of slaves present in Jamaica reached up to 600,000 in the 18th century. And while the country actually gained independence in 1962, Jamaica remains part of the Commonwealth. And get this, Jamaica is also one of the few countries across the Caribbean that still has, I think there are like 14 nations that still has the Queen as the head of state, and they are actually readying to demand reparations. But whenever I really just wish that sometimes we wouldn't talk about what we do and we just do it. I wish this article was more about like Jamaica has submitted the petition to demand for reparations. Because you see now when they say they're readying, it's like, could the process be hijacked? Could mercenaries be sent behind the scenes to kind of, delay, disrupt, or, change the direction of this? Because there's a lot happening in the Caribbean, beloveds, especially with this, there's a lot happening. And many nations are being forced to bow, and those ones who aren't bowing are going the Haitian president way. Or they're fearing they'll go the Haitian president way, so they're just backing out. So that's why I was just like, why talk about preparing the petition instead of just telling us that you've submitted the petition? But anyway, they said.
Okay. Just think about that. Anybody know about that?
No.
Yeah, I heard about they was requesting reparations. I heard that about a week or so ago.
Right. They said from last time I dealt with that, it was the people over there. I think it's Cobra. Some Cobra they more ready to and more prepared for reparations than the ones that's over here in America. If those people get it, then I believe that's when America gonna get it.
Oh well,
they're gonna get it first.
You talking about the armed brothers and that?
No, I'm talking about the dude named Beckles. I think his name. He the one that's over the they actually joined together, but they still kind of separate. They still got the group that's over here working on the White House and Congress and all that, but they have a group over there that's working on the Queen and working on the Parliament in Great Britain. But they more further along than we are.
Okay.
And they're more organized. Right. And they put more pressure on them than we are. So I think that's gonna crack first. Then America gonna follow suit. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A before I go into this book of Joshua. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to bring to the forefront, talk about?
I have a question.
Okay.
Have you heard of Lilith?
Right. Yeah.
Is that real? Because I haven't read about her in any of the books. I haven't come across her.
Well, my understanding from what I gathered from it, looking at it, we know that I don't know if all the angels had that ability, but I know the cherubim, and Lucifer, the cherubims, they have the ability to transform. Anything the Most High made, they can transform into it. So that's Lucifer. Lilith is Lucifer. He just, once the Most High made a woman, then he was able to transform him into a woman. Shapeshift. That's him. So when you go back and look at the story, what happened in the garden, he came in the garden to defile Eve. Well, he actually came to defile both of them, but he came in, he defiled Eve, and then he said that Adam took the fruit thereof too. So what's the fruit? What's the fruit that Eve took? Was him. She had intercourse with him.
So Satan turned into a woman too for Adam?
Right. He laid with Eve, then he turned around and laid with Adam.
Wow. Okay, because they were saying that Lilith was the Most High's first wife.
No, that's the lie that Satan told him when he came to him. Because if you remember, I don't know if you got the book Adam and Eve.
No, I don't have the book.
Yeah, so Adam was disgruntled after he cast them out of the garden, and so they was in a cave. They went to a cave. They had never seen darkness because they was in the garden. It was light. It was they didn't know nothing about darkness. So then when it started getting dark, he found this cave, for Eve, but he didn't want to be around her. So he went up and slept on top of up on top of the cave, and Satan came to him. Lucifer came to him, but he's in the form of a woman. So Adam asked him, what's up with you like that? And he said that he had made when he was asleep, while he was asleep, when the Most High put him to sleep, and he formed Eve. He said he also brought her out first before he brought Eve out. She was the first one he brought out. But that's him. So he had to find a way to justify why he was there, because so he told Adam all this happened while he was asleep, while he was in a deep sleep. All right. So you say, what are you talking about? Like I said, he's Zeus. Lucifer is Zeus. So what does Zeus do? He shapeshift. He go to these different women, and then and he appeared to them when their husband gone. He appeared to them as their husband, and lied with them, and they had children. That's how he got all these kids all over the place. And like I said, he's on top of Mount Olympus. That's where he dwelled, on Mount Olympus. That's all these fallen angels dwell on mountains. That's him. When you rightly divide it. And then you have to go back to, go back when you, with this information and having the right foundation, you go back to the Greek culture and start watching those Greek videos or documentaries on the Greek culture. You start seeing it. It all fall in place. He called trailing them anyway, because Japhet is from him, his descendants. Japhet came descendant, so he followed them anyway. That's his seed. That's his seed line. Yeah, so that's what he had. He got the capability to do that.
So that's where they got all of those movies with the shape shifting and stuff from.
Right. That's who Dracula is. Dracula is Lucifer. Like I said, you get a chance, watch that Grand Soap Dracula. Once you watch it, you're gonna see it. But if you don't have no background information, you just watching some old, think you watching some sci-fi movie, but that's him. He comes as a wolf, then he a bat, and then when he can turn into a fog, go under the door, then he turn back into a man. That's Lucifer. Yeah. So on the movie, I was on another channel the other day listening to people talking, and so like I said, those angels have wings, and they got beautiful wings. Well, this guy had been tracking Dracula, and he figured out how he worked. He knows that the first thing he got to do, he need blood, so he's gonna come there and bite some woman, and then then she's gonna be his host. So he got to keep coming back there in the night and to get blood from her. So the guy just waited on that. When he seen the girl was sick and started getting pale, he knew he had bit her. So he sit there and waited on him to come there. And so he came in the room and turned into a fog and all this. And then he went under the door, went in the room. And when he was in the bed with the girl, getting ready to bite her on the neck and suck her blood, the guy clicked the gun. He turned around and saw him. Well, he was like 10 feet, 12 feet tall. But he was albino. And he had shriveled up wings on his back. Then he told the dude, I've been here forever. You can't do nothing to me. That gun ain't gonna work. Then he just dropped to the floor, turned into 1,000 rats, and dropped to the floor, and all these rats went everywhere. That's Lucifer. Ain't no, they're saying Dracula, but that's Lucifer. He's doing the same thing with like I said, that's who Zeus is.
And so, what is the name of this movie?
Grand Stoke Dracula.
Grand what?
Grand Stoke. Stoke.
Okay.
Grand Stoke Dracula. It's an older movie, but it's same as when Ten Commandments came out. It was a blockbuster.
Okay.
When it came out.
Okay, and now I got another question.
What's that?
Isaiah 34, 14.
Isaiah 34. Okay. Says the wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The shriek owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. Okay.
Right. So I want to know who are the wild beasts, and the satyr. That's some kind of goat demon. I was wondering if that's the same false god that you was talking about, that had the goat ears and the breast, and or
Yeah.
was that another false deity?
Well, when you understand that Enoch told us that these giants died. And when these giants died, the spirit didn't come from heaven, so the spirit stayed on the earth, roaming the earth, tormenting mankind. Right? So that's what this is right here. The same thing with the Arabians talk about the genies and the jinn. There ain't nothing but wicked spirits that came from the giants when they passed away.
Okay, so the wild beast are the what?
The wild beast is just, these just wild, these animals that exist in the desert, but the satire is like a demonic spirit. If you go back to when a Day of Atonement, there's two ghosts that have to be brought into the temple for the high priest, and he got to lay his hand on both of them. He killed one of them. He killed one of them right there, make a sacrifice, and the other one he has to let go into the desert too.
Okay,
and that represents Aziel. He's supposedly in the wilderness, out in the desert. That's what that is.
Okay, because I know sometimes in the scripture it says beast of the field, and I thought that was referring to some wicked people.
No, you talking about beast of the field, like I was showing you. He made animals on the sixth day, but then he also he created some animals. That's the wild animals. Then he came and he formed some animals. That's the domestic animals, the ones that help the man. That's
okay, so in this verse, then they're talking literally, like the screech owl, and so they're not talking metaphorically in this verse.
No, they're talking about little animals that dwell in the desert.
Okay.
That satire, which is a mystical beast, he dwell in the desert. That's why I say
Okay. Well, no.
right.
Right. Because in 13 it got dragons. So they talking literally dragons in, right?
Well, dragons, they talking about those big, those dragons that dwell in the desert, like the Komodo and the other, those big, like I think they can get like 5, 6 feet, 7 feet long. That's what he's talking
Mm-hmm.
about. That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
Because he said the same thing. He mentioned the same similar situation with Israel when he said it's going to be a time when the same animal is going to be in Israel because it's going to be desert. So and
Okay.
that's where these things dwell at, around ruins. Well, it's
Okay.
out in the open, northern, out in the wilderness, like that's where they dwell at.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions or comments or anything? Everybody good? Okay. Yeah. So what I did right here, I got a couple of short videos. I mean, we can audios, and we're gonna it's dealing with the angels. It's kind of ironic that we were just talking about that, but I'm gonna because like I said, you have to understand these people. They didn't leave no stone unturned. Every opportunity they trying to carry our understanding on our culture. So we're gonna play this here. This is about the cherub. Okay.
Cherubim are a group of celestial beings created by God. They are the first of the angelic hierarchy to appear in the Bible, immediately following Adam and Eve's fall from grace. Genesis 3 records the events in the Garden of Eden. Having violated God's commandment not to partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it would have been likely for Adam and Eve to reach out their hands and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. As a result, they were forced to leave their earthly paradise. But what would have stopped Adam from going back to the garden and disobeying God again? The answer is given in this verse. Genesis chapter 3, verses 24-25. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. So God drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep and guard the way to the tree of life. What a terrible situation would have been if Adam had eaten of the tree of life and so had been perpetually established in his fallen state. God sent a contingent of glorious and trusted cherubim to guard access to the tree to prevent that. We don't know Adam's reaction to witnessing those glorious cherubim for the first time in human history. Perhaps awe, fright, and wonder are all emotions that come to mind. In other sections of the Bible, we are told that how people reacted to seeing angels. Zechariah, for example.
Okay. So let's look at that. So you notice how him talking, he said that God drove Adam out, and then he sat there. He sat there a cherub with a sword, right? Do that make any sense? That from what we discussed, who drove the man out of the garden? Huh?
Lord, Lord, were you talking about Adam?
Yeah, who drove Adam and Eve out of the garden?
Wasn't that the Lord of hosts?
Right. So he's saying Yahweh. He said Yahweh drove him out. Then he placed the cherub there. Michael drove him out. He sent Michael to drive Adam out. Yah ain't driving him out. The Lord of hosts drove him out. And then he said that he should have. What would have happened if he'd have stayed in the garden and ate from the tree of life? So when you talk about eating, what did he tell Ezekiel when the Lord of hosts was talking to Ezekiel? He told him to eat the scroll, right?
Yes.
right? So what's the scroll? What is the scroll?
Word. Truth.
His words. It's not his mouth. That's what he's talking about. The tree, Michael, the tree of life. So he the one that already informed him what he had to do in the garden before he transgressed. So he already done ate from the tree of life. He transgressed what the Lord of hosts had gave him. That's the reason why he, so then when he transgressed him, he drove him out. So it ain't no different than us. He came from Mount uh, Sinai and came and got us out of Egypt and brought us back to where he dwelled, and we transgressed against him and he drove us out. Yahweh wasn't there. So that's what I mean about how they didn't, not only did they have us screwed up in the head, he got them screwed up in the head. Because you know that's huge to sit here and listen to that and not understand how it really goes. You going backwards. Let me play a little more.
In Luke chapter 1, verses 11 through 13. Then to the right of the incense altar, an angel of the Lord appeared to him. Zechariah was troubled and overcome with fear. The angel said to him, "Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will have a son, and you will name him John." Adam realized that his transgression had cut him off from the company and presence of the holy God. Oddly enough, the next occurrence of the cherubim in the Bible involves recovering what was lost. Moses. In Exodus 25, Moses was given specific and detailed instructions on how to make articles of furniture that would be used in the tabernacle. The Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat, where God promised to meet and communicate with Moses, were the first to be detailed. What did God want to go over or on top of the mercy seat? He chose representations of the cherubim in gold. The following is God's intriguing description to Moses. Have them make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold, both inside and out, and make a gold molding around it. Cast 4 gold rings for it and fasten them to its 4 feet, with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. Then make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry it. The poles are to remain in the rings of this ark. They are not to be removed. Then put in the ark the tablets of the covenant law which I will give you. Make an atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide, and make 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. Make the cherubim of one piece with the cover at the 2 ends. The cherubim are to have their wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover with them. The cherubim are to face each other, looking toward the cover. Place the cover on top of the ark, and put in the ark the tablets of the covenant law that I will give you. Therefore, above the cover between the 2 cherubim that are over the ark of the covenant law, I will meet with you and give you all my commandments for the Israelites. Make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Exodus chapter 25, verses 10 through 23.
Comment. No comments? Okay, so we'll keep going.
Cherubim associated with the very presence of God. From those 2 sources in the Bible, it appears as though the cherubim's major responsibility may be to declare man's sinfulness and protect the presence of God from sinful men. As much as Adam yearned to return to the Garden of Eden, the cherubim reminded him that he had broken God's law. The high priest of Israel would be allowed into the Holy of Holies once a year to gaze upon the mercy seat. I'm sure he must have felt on each occasion, I don't belong here in the holy presence of God, for I am a sinner. Cherubim are real and powerful beings. However, the cherubim in the Bible were often representative of heavenly things. They were integrated into the design of the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle of God's command. Ezekiel chapter 10, verses 8 through 14. Beneath their wings, the cherubim seemed to have something in the form of a man's hand. Then I looked, and behold, there were 4 wheels beside the cherubim, 1 wheel beside one cherub, and another wheel beside each other cherub. and the appearance of the wheels was like a sparkling Tarshish stone, beryl. As for their appearance, all four looked alike, as if one wheel were within another wheel. When they moved, they went in any of their four directions without turning as they went, but they followed in the direction which they faced, without turning as they went. Their whole body, their backs, their hands, their wings, and the wheels were full of eyes all around, even the wheels belonging to all four of them. Regarding the wheels attached to them, I heard them calling, the whirling, rolling, revolving wheels, and each one had four faces. The first face was the face of the cherub, the second the face of a man, the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. The cherubim were shown in Ezekiel 10 as having not only wings and hands, but also being full of eyes, encompassed by wheels within wheels. However, Ezekiel also paints a gloomy tone in chapter 10, and the cherubim provide the hint. The prophet presents his vision that prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem. In Ezekiel 9:3, the Lord has descended from his throne above the cherubim to the threshold of the temple, while in 10:1 he returns again to take his seat above them. In the calm before the storm, we see the cherubim stationed on the south side of the sanctuary. Being stationed in position toward the city, they witness the beginning of the gradual withdrawal of God's glory from Jerusalem. The fluttering of their wings indicates immensely important events to follow. Chapter 10, verse 5. Then the cherubim rise up in preparation for the departure. While Ezekiel 10 is difficult to understand, one point comes across clearly. The cherubim are associated with God's splendor. This chapter is one of the Bible's most cryptic and yet evocative passages about God's grandeur, and it involves angelic beings. It should be read with care and prayer. Few other chapters in the Bible give the reader a feeling of God's greatness and glory. While the seraphim and cherubim are members of distinct hierarchies and are shrouded in mystery in the Bible, they have one thing in common. They constantly glorify God. But as wonderful as angelic and heavenly beings are, they pale in comparison to our heavenly Lamb, the Lord of glory, before whom all powers...
Okay. Yeah, so anybody got any questions on that? Anything they heard?
So is Ezekiel's will a chariot?
Nah, I wouldn't say it's a chariot, but it's some kind of vehicle because of I told you about the sapphire stone and these wheels is connected to this sapphire stone some kind of way, and the angels they all connected some kind of way, and like you said, they go up, and then they never turn their head. It just wherever way they gonna go, whichever way one go, all of them go. So it's like describing a vehicle when they lift up off the ground and then it takes off. Airplane, it picks up, and then the whole whichever way the front of the airplane goes, all the rest of it got to go. That's all.
Right.
It's describing a vehicle, but it's not the type of vehicle like I said, like they assuming it is because of like they're using their wings.
Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about, a chariot like that, like a spaceship.
Right, but I'm saying it's not like a spaceship because the thrust of these angels' wings is the one that's moving. It's not like it's like some kind of source of power source that's making it move. It's their wings. You see, when they started moving their wings is when it lifted up off the ground. And then he said he heard the noise of their wings, and it was just so powerful, you know what I'm saying? So these angel wings is control, is the mechanism, the source of why it's moving. So it's not like a spaceship,
Right, and didn't it say something about it had a bunch of eyes inside of it?
Right. So they, from their understanding is from all the images and stuff I see, they have eyes all over these beings, but I don't believe that because they are made in Yah image and we made in their image. We ain't got eyes all over us. We just got two eyes in our head, forehead. So I don't see that. It's something else going on with that. But I don't believe there's no eyes all over them, like no eyes, got eyes on their arms and eyes on their feet and all that. I don't believe that.
Right, and didn't it say like each face had like a different, like an animal head, and then one of a man? You know,
Right.
that's I try to picture that in my mind, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Well. What I perceive from my understanding of it, like I said, you know how they had ability to transform into anything, right?
Right.
So from my understanding, looking at that, they transform it. You know what I mean? They transform
Mm,
him, and you see him, see the eagle head, then you see the cow head. They transform him back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's what I say. That's what the way I see it, because it don't make no sense that you got 4 different heads that all on the same body. I don't see that.
right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing, though.
Right.
Hope to see it one day.
Right. Oh yeah. You did something. Right. So that was we was talking about the cherubim right there. I'm gonna go to this other video. This is talking about the seraphim.
Decent feat no doubt expresses the reverence and awe caused by the direct presence. Prevent mental diseases like dementia with this new ear cleaner device. This safe earwax cleaner. Another group of angels specifically identified as the seraphim. In the Hebrew language, seraphim means burning ones.
Okay.
The book of Isaiah tells us of.
So let's stop right there. So I'm in I'm in Isaiah. I think it's 19.
What chapter?
19. Isaiah 19. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's Isaiah 14, verse 29.
Okay.
It says, "Rejoice not, thou, O Palestinian, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatree, and its fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent." See that? So he just told you right here. Seraphim means of fiery, the fiery ones, right?
Like dragons.
Right.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
Sarah. Yeah.
Go check it out.
The seraphim. The book of Isaiah is a fascinating one to study. For starters, the records of Isaiah's prophecy are among the most well documented of all the Old Testament books. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1948 and featured a copy of the book dated from 100 BC, which was over 1,000 years older than the next oldest copy, which dated from 900 AD. At the time, translation work on the Revised Standard Version of the Bible was being completed, but the work was stopped while these documents were checked, but very little needed changing. In the latter half of Israel's kingdom period, Isaiah lived in Jerusalem and spoke on God's behalf to the leaders of Jerusalem and Judah. He expressed, first of all, a message of God's judgment. He admonished Israel's corrupt leaders that the rebellion against their covenant with God would come at a cost, that God was going to use the great empires of Assyria and after them, Babylon, to judge Jerusalem if they continued in idolatry and tyranny of the poor. But that declaration was incorporated with a message of hope. Isaiah's grand vision of God sitting on his throne in the temple, surrounded by heavenly creatures shouting, "God is holy, holy, holy," and Isaiah suddenly sees how corrupt he and his people Israel are, and he thinks he'll be destroyed by God's holiness, but he isn't. Then one of the seraphim flew and burns him, but not to destroy.
So check this out right here. This is what I was talking about, how I rightly divide stuff. So They're trying to figure out if it's, some people saying the cherubim and the seraphim are the same beings, right? And some say they ain't, but check this out.
Or rather to purify him from sin. And as Isaiah mulls over this peculiar experience, God assigns him a tough task. He is to keep preaching the coming judgment. But because Israel has reached a point of no return, his warnings will paradoxically harden the people. So the hardening impact of the word of God is a key theme. And it is no wonder that Isaiah asked, how long do I have to go on preaching and hardening them with no response? Isaiah had one of the toughest assignments of all the prophets. But of course, if he hadn't gone through with it, we wouldn't have this amazing book. And he didn't know that centuries ahead, this book would be an inspiration. But in his lifetime, he was a failure. Nobody listened. They just got harder and harder for 40 years. In the year the king Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with...
Yeah, I told you that we already established Yahweh is on a sapphire stone. And every time he comes, they're gonna make a point to let you know that. So this is somebody right here on a throne. But watch this.
6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces.
These seraphim.
With 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty.
Watch this.
The whole earth is full of his glory.
Whole earth.
At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 7.
So, we told over there that somebody in the New Testament that somebody got to die on the cross for our sins to be taken away. The seraphim right here took one of them coals and he put it, wiped it on top of Ezekiel, and then he told him the sin has been taken away. Ain't that something? So that tells me a whole lot. All of a sudden right here, when the Most High get ready, or Lord of Hosts get ready, he can remove the sin. He can remove the sin. He took the coals and he put it on Ezekiel and told him, your sin's been removed. They're gone. So, like I said, who greater? Who in charge of who? Jesus in charge of him, or he in charge of him? Which one is it? Because he just sent this seraphim to put the coal on Ezekiel and told him his sin's gone. They've been blotted out. Ain't nobody died on no cross. Nobody got stuck in the side. Nails in their feet. Ain't none of that happened. He took the coal and wiped it on him, and he told him your sin's gone. Okay?
The prophet perceived at once that he had no right to be in the holy presence of God, and he confessed as much. So one of the seraphim took a burning coal from the altar and touched Isaiah's lips to cleanse his iniquity and purge his sin. Therefore, seraphim have wings. They proclaim the holiness of God. They demonstrate to men their need to be cleansed from sin. Despite the fact that the seraphim and cherubim belong to different hierarchies and are shrouded in mystery in the Bible, they share one trait. They are continuously praising God. Angels and celestial beings are lovely, but they pale in contrast to our heavenly Lamb, the Lord of glory, before whom all forces in heaven and on earth bow in holy devotion and breathless adoration.
So,
prevent mental diseases like dementia with this new year.
Any comments?
That was Michael, right?
So that's what I was getting ready to say. So looking at that and doing all the reading and all that and the research and the foundation, what I see is these cherubim, these 7 cherubim, Yahweh, they constantly around Yahweh and worshiping him. These seraphim is around the Lord of Hosts and worshiping him. Okay? You know, you got to go back and look at it and check it out. So they just said, "Holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." What's he seraphim said? Okay, and they down here in the temple. So what are we looking at? I showed you how Most High formed some animals when he created some animals. He formed a man, he created a man. He created a man. He formed some angels and created some angels. So then you start, when you look at this, like right here, you see that you got Satan took a third of the angels, right? He got 12 tribes, but one of the tribes he took to himself. And the Levites, they're the ones worshiping the temple. That's what these seraphim is. Same thing. That's those seraphim, like he told Lucifer in Ezekiel. At one time, you went up and down on the mountain of God, up and down the coals of fire. Well, these seraphim is called the fiery ones. So when Satan was kicked out, what he took with him? He took a third of the angels with him. He took a third of these seraphim. He took a third of these seraphim with him. They just like Levites is on the earth. But like Levite is to Israel, these seraphim is in heaven. Same way Levite is on the earth. The cherubim is the ones that around Yah and worshiping him. It's like a priestly order. That's what Lucifer was over. He was a high priest. He was over these seraphim. Let a little more play. I'm just giving you something to go check or search out.
Like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth. Psalms chapter 80, verse 1. The Lord reigneth, let the people tremble. He sitteth between the cherubims, let the earth be moved. Psalms chapter 99, verse 1. The phrase holy, holy, holy appears in the Bible twice, once in the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 3, and once in the New, Revelation chapter 4, verse 8. Both times the phrase is spoken or sung by heavenly creatures, and both times it appears in a vision of a man being brought to God's throne, first by the prophet Isaiah and subsequently by the apostle John. The holiness of God is the most difficult of all God's traits to express. Holiness is not something we inherit as part of our nature. We only become holy in relationship to Christ. It's a sanctity that's been ascribed to you. It is an imputed own sinful state. Revelations chapter 1, verse 17. Christ had placed his hand on.
Okay, any comments? So like I said, you get a chance to check that out. I mean, that's something that I've been searching out for a long time, still searching out, but you know, it dawned on me. I was looking at that and I was seeing how that you know, these when he said that those are seraphim are the fiery ones. They fire, so these are fiery flying serpents. You got to understand that they intermingle with women too. Some of them intermingle with women. Matter of fact, Satan did. Lucifer came in the garden and said he fiery flying serpent. So you got to see those characteristics too. They had to been, you know, that's part of their DNA. So if they slept with a woman, that had to come out. They had to come out in, you know, giants or those characteristics, some of those characteristics too. So you know, yeah. But like I said, they different. These seraphim is as different as the other angels, as just like the Levites is with the rest of the tribe of Israel. They so different to the Most High. Took them from among the Israelites and brought them to himself. Same with these seraphim. Yeah. Any comments? Let me see what he's talking about. It says, and there you go. You found a way to sneak Christ in the New Testament to the lesson. Yeah, I did some. Okay. All right, let me get this up here. It says the Phoenician Cherubim Bible, Book of the Creation mentions Lilith The Nag Hammadi also just yeah, right. So anybody know what the Nag Hammadi is? Whatever that is. Anybody ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, those they just like they dug up the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's a collection of books right here they dug up. I was telling you about how when you got to understand how we get to Christ, how we got to Jesus the Christ, and how we got to the New Testament was when the Greeks came to the Middle East and conquered Jerusalem and Egypt. Uh, Alexander conquest was cut off in India. And so they started worshiping. He had like a 200,000, 250,000 people following him. When he left from Greece, he had a big old contingent of people following him. Every time he conquered a nation, he left some of them people there. So all the remaining people, when they got to India, where his conquest stopped, they all posted up right there. And they picked up the Buddhism. And then they started mixing Buddhism with Egyptology, with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And they had got a whole dial records. So they started mixing all that stuff together. And that's how, so in Egypt, you had Isis, which was, and Horus and Osiris. Osiris was killed by his brother. Cut him up into 17 pieces, cut his penis off, and he buried him all over Egypt. But he threw his phallus in the Nile River, and the crocodiles ate it. So Isis went and dug all this up. This is an esoteric story. Before the Europeans came, they so told. So it was an esoteric story. So when she went and found all the parts, but she couldn't find the phallus, the crocodiles had ate it. So she put his body back together and mummified him. That's where mummification comes from. She put all his parts back together and mummified him, and then brought him back to life. But he didn't have no phallus, so she hovered over him, and she immaculately conceived Horus. That's where the story started at, right there. Horus was immaculately conceived. And then so that's when the Greeks came. They took the story and made the Black Madonna, which is they turned Jesus into the Christ, and then Mary was into Mary, and they turned Horus to Joseph, the Black Madonna. That's what they did. But that's tied to these books that this brother just mentioned. The Nag Hammadi, that's what the Gnostics was dealing with. And they so when Constantine, at first they was killing all the Christians, because Christianity came when they killed Caesarion, and the Christianity religion came from that. So he was killing them. They was killing Christians. But when Constantine came on the scene after the Roman Empire had been received a wound in the head, and he brought it back together, he needed a religion. So that's when he went and said, okay, I'm gonna get this Christian religion right here, and I'm gonna make it the national religion. But he had to kill the people that was behind it, and that was these Gnostics, and they the ones that had those books, the Nag Hammadi Library. So he killed all them off. That's who was being put in the catacombs, and who was being put in arenas with the gladiators and all that was these Gnostics. And he killed all of them off and stole their religion. That's how you get, that's the story of Christianity, pretty much in a nutshell how you got it. So it evolved. Buddhism, the monks, and then the Egyptians and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and they tied in what the Gnostics had. So that's what they got as Council Nicaea.
So those artifacts that the Roman Catholic Church has, the Black Madonna and stuff, so that was during that time period.
Right. Those. You have to go do the research on it, because to get it in your head, you see, what happened. So they the ones. That's the religion they had. It was right. It was an offshoot from the Egyptian Book of the Egyptians like Horus, Isis, and Osiris. And they came. The Egyptians, like I said, they were spiritual people. They they were dealing with giants and all that, and these fallen angels. So they saw the sun and they personified. So they ain't say that the sun was no actual person. They personified the sun. And that's how you get Horus and all that. So, but when these Europeans came with a lower knowledge and lower understanding, they took that sun and made an actual human out of it, the Christ. They made Christ, and then they made his mother, and and so that's where when you start talking about he was born, and as soon as he was born, he started talking. That's what that garbage is over there when they talk about Noah was born albino. And as soon as he came out, his eyes shined all over the room, and he started talking. Immediately started speaking to the Most High. That's where that's coming from. So when you rightly divide it, so let's look at it. So we just saw that these Lucifer is a flowery fine serpent shining, and then these seraphim that's a third of them came with him. Well, how you think Cain looked when he came out? So that's the story they took from Cain, put it on Noah. So if you say you look at that, and then what did Eve say when he was born? I've gotten a man from God. Why is she saying that? Because of them characteristics that he had. That's why she's saying that. So they took that story, put it on Noah. So like I said, ain't no way he tells you. Let me read it. Adam, when he made Adam and he put him on the ground, he formed Adam. So he ain't make no mistake. Adam was. If you think they flipping over Joseph in Egypt, what do you think they did if they seen Adam? So he formed Adam, right? So let's look at it. And so the reason why the flood came was because of they was taking with the creation of the descendants that came from Adam. They were trying to destroy that template that came from Adam. So I'm in chapter 6, verse 9. It says, these are the generations of Noah, right? Noah was a just man and perfect. See that? And perfect in his generation. And Noah walked with God. He's saying he's perfect because he come from Adam. He's the only one left, him and Shem, that's got Adam DNA in it that ain't been tampered with. So how is he an albino? How is his eyes shining all over the room? And he talking come out of the womb, can't even crawl yet. Eyes ain't even open, but he's talking to the Most High. No, that's what Cain did. Because who his daddy was. See that? That ain't what Noah done. He said Noah looked just like Adam. Burnished brass skin and brown eyes and woolly hair, kinky hair. He wasn't no albino. That's how you rightly divide that. Yeah. Any comments? Okay.
No, that's good. Because I was always wondering when it said that when Eve said, "I have gotten a man from the Lord," I was wondering why would she say that?
Right. Now you know why. So
Right.
So that's the first thing I thought about when I seen that, because of I know a room eyes shine all over the room. So if his eyes shine all over the room, then we born, our eyes be shining all over the room. Come on. He ain't no variation from Adam to when you get to Noah. Noah, when he made Adam and breathed breath into Adam, was Adam's eyes shine all over the place, shine all over the room? No. There's something else going on. That's what people can't discern. Oh, yeah, there's something that happened. If Noah albino and he got funny looking eyes, something happened. Come on.
And it makes sense because amen is all through the book.
Right.
And so that lets us know that it was tampered with for real.
Right. Exactly. Didn't he tell us that? Enoch tell us that, and Joshua tell us that, and they tell us that, even in Jubilees. He said that they're gonna tamper with the books. They're gonna alter everything that the Most High spoke. They're gonna alter it. And now we know that for a fact. Yeah.
Right.
Is that something? Okay. Anybody got anything else? I'm gonna read out Joshua. I'm gonna read the story of Moses when he, because this part is not in the King James. Is what some of the stuff that happened on Moses. So it says, I'm in 72. It says, and it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush. Check this out. And in those days there was a great war between the children of Cush. That's the Ethiopians, right? The Atlantic Ocean used to be the Ethiopian Ocean. It wasn't always called the Atlantic Ocean. It was the Ethiopian Ocean, and the whole of Africa at one time was called Ethiopia. That's Cush, right? So it says, and it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of the East, and uh, Aram, and they rebelled against the king of Cush, in whose hands they were, right? So who was the king? Who the children of the East? Anybody know that?
The Hebrews?
Right. That's Joktan and Peleg. We follow the lineage of Peleg. The Bible, Yahweh following the lineage of Peleg, but it was two boys born from Eber, and Joktan went to the east. These Hebrews, but they went to the east, just like when Moses, when Lot and Abraham cattle became multiplied, they had to split. They had to split up. Abraham went to the east, and Moses went and set up by Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot. They had to separate. Same with them two boys. Joktan, you got to follow where Joktan went, just as well as you got to follow where Peleg went. Or Abraham came through the lineage of Peleg. So these are children of the east. So we're gonna get on to the nitty gritty. So Cush is a 6-day man before these 200 angels came there. That's what you got to understand. Ethiopia, that's 6-day man. 6-day man. They was there before these fallen angels came down and started sleeping, and they corrupted Egypt. They put these crowns on and corrupted the 6-day man. They were subject to Adam at first. To these 200 angels came down over there and brought all that giants and all this technology from heaven and corrupted the 6-day man. That's why when the Lord of Hosts came to Egypt, shut it down and brought the Israelites out, it's a group of people followed them because they were returning back to the order that Yahweh had. It says mixed multitude following them out of there. They didn't want to be there no more either. So anyway, verse 2 says, and I don't know how to spell it, say the dude's name. Kenitis, king of Cush, went forward with all his children of Cush, a people numerous as the sands of the sea, and went to fight against Abram and the children of the east to bring them under subjection. And when Kenitis went out, he left Balaam, the musician, with his 2 sons to guard the city and the lower sort and the lower sort of the people of the land. And so Kenitis went forth to Abram, the children of the east, and he fought against them, smote them, and they fell down wounded before Kenitis and his people. So just for GP, to let you know what's going on, he says, and Kenitis went out, and he left Balaam, the musician, with his 2 sons, right? So who is Balaam's 2 sons? Anybody know that? You know who Balaam is, right? Anybody know who Balaam is?
Right?
Huh?
Yeah.
Anybody know who Balaam is? Go to Genesis 20. Go to number 23 right quick. So I mean you gotta let this ferment.
Which book?
Go to number 23.
Oh, okay.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay. So this the guy. See that 23 says the prophecies of Balaam. Balaam said under Balak. This Balaam is the one that Balak, the king of the Moabites, wanted him to curse the Israelites when they was coming out of Egypt. He wanted them to curse the Israelites when they was coming out of Egypt. So so when you see that, you gotta know that that's who this guy is, because it plays a part in when you're trying to write divide the scriptures. So Balaam had two sons, right? Balaam two sons is Janus and Jambres. Anybody know who that is? When Moses throw his staff down, didn't those other two guys throw their staff down? Anybody know that story?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
when Moses threw his stick down and turned into a snake, Janus and Jambres threw their stick down. So
Right.
that's Balaam's son. So Moses already, what I'm trying to get you to see, Moses already interacting with them right here. This before Moses ended up in the desert, and Moses went to meet the Lord of Hosts on the mountain. He was dealing with these guys right here, but that was when he was ruling in Ethiopia and ruling in Egypt. And then when he came back, these same two guys he coming up against that threw their sticks out. Just want you to know that. So 4 says, so Canaanites went forth to Abram and the children of the east, and he fought against them and smote them, and they all fell down wounded before Canaanites and his people. And he took many of them captive, and he brought them under subjection as at first, and he encamped upon their land and took tribute from them as usual. And Balaam the son of Peor, when the king of Cush had left him to guard the city and the poor of the city, he rose up and advised with the people of the land to rebel against King Canaanite, not to let him enter the city when he should come home. And the people of the land hearkened to him, and they swore to him and made him king over them, and his two sons were captains of the army. See that these same two ones went up against Moses when he came back, and Balaam was gone. So it says, so they rose up and raised the walls of the city at the two corners, and they built an exceedingly strong building. And at the third corner, they dug ditches without number between the cities and the river, which surrounded the whole land of Cush. And they made the waters of the river burst forth there. And at the fourth corner, they collected numerous serpents by their incantations and enchantments, and they forfeited the city. They fortified the city and dwelt therein, and no one went out or in before them. So let's look at that right here. Verse 10 says, uh, at the fourth corner, they collected numerous serpents. Look at this, by the incarnations and enchantments, and they fortified the city. So incarnation enchantment, that's supernatural. This is what I mean right here. When I say these fiery flying serpents, these some of the characteristics that you get when the women was intermingling with them. You had people that had the ability to do this type of stuff right here. They use the incantations and sorcery. Regular men ain't got that. These some of the characteristics I'm talking about right here that they got from these angels. Okay, so 13, and they said one to another, it is because they saw that they were delayed in the battle and were greatly afraid of us. Therefore have they done this thing and raised the city walls and fortified them, so that the king of Canaan may not come in battle against them. So the king and his troops approached the city door, and they looked up, and behold, all the gates of the city were closed. And they called out to the sentinels, saying, open unto us that we may enter in the city. But the sentinels refused to open. to them by the order of Balaam the musician. That musician, their king. That's what Satan do. Witchcraft, musician. That we may enter in the city. But the sentinels refused to open it to them by the order of Balaam the musician, their king. They suffered them not to enter into the city. So they raised a battle with them opposite the city gate, and 130 men of the army of Canaan fell on that day. And on the next day, they continued to fight. They fought at the side of the river. They endeavored to pass, but were not able. So some of them sank in the pits and died. So the king ordered them to cut down the trees to make rafts upon which they might pass to them, and they did so. Okay, they did so. Say, and when they came to the place of the ditches, the waters revolved by mills, and the 200 men upon the 10 rafts were drowned. And on the third day, they came to fight to the side where the serpents were, but they could not approach there, for the serpents slew of them 170 men, and they ceased fighting against Cush, and they besieged Cush for 9 years. No person came out or in. At that time, that the war and the siege were against Cush, Moses fled from Egypt, from Pharaoh, who sought to kill him for having slain the Egyptians. See how they lined it up? It said Moses was 18 years old when he fled from Egypt, from the presence of Pharaoh, and he fled and escaped to the camp of Canaan, which was at that time was besieging Cush. And Moses was 9 years in the camp of Canaan, king of Cush, all the time that he was besieging Cush. And Moses went out and came in with him. And the king and his princes and all the fighting men loved Moses, for he was great and worthy. His stature was like a noble lion. His face was like the sun, and his strength was like that of a lion. And he was as counselor to the king. And at the end of 9 years, Kenaz was seized with a mortal disease, and his illness prevailed over him, and he died on the seventh day. So his servants embalmed him and carried him and buried him opposite the city gates to the north of the land of Egypt. And they built over him an elegant, strong, and high building, and they placed great stones below. And the king's scribes engraved upon those stones all the might of their king Kenaias and all his battles which he had fought. Behold, they were written there at this day. Now, after the death of Kenaias, king of Cush, it grieved his men and troops greatly on account of the war. So they said one to another, give us counsel what we are to do at this time, as we have resided in the wilderness 9 years away from our homes. If we say we will fight against the king, against the city, many of us will fall wounded or killed. And if we remain here in the siege, we will also die. For now, all the kings of Aram and Aram and of the children of the east will hear that our king is dead, and they will attack us suddenly in hostile manner, and they will fight against us and leave no remnant of us. Now therefore let us go and make a king over us, and let us remain in the siege until the city is delivered up to us. And they wish to choose one on that day a man for king from the army of Canaan. And they found no subject of their choice like Moses to reign over them. And they hastened and stripped off each man his garment, cast them upon the ground, and they made a great heap and placed Moses thereon. And they rose up and blew with the trumpet and called out before him and said, may the king live forever, may the king live. And all the people of the nobles swore unto him to give him for a wife Adoniah the queen, the Cushite, wife of Kenaz. And they made Moses king over them on that day. And all the people of Cush issued a proclamation on that day, saying, every man must give something to Moses of what is in his possession. And they spread out a sheet upon the heap, and every man cast into it something of what he had. One a gold ring, the other coin. Also an onyx stone, plate with pearls and marble, did the children of Cush cast unto Moses upon the heap. Also silver and gold in great abundance. And Moses took all the silver and gold, all the vessels, the bedroom, and onyx stones, which all the children of Cush had given to him, and he placed them amongst his treasures. And Moses reigned over the children of Cush on that day in the place of King as king of Cush. Right? So, anybody got any comments on that? Anybody ever heard that? So now this brings to light the story about Moses and Moses ruling in Ethiopia and Moses being connected to the Cushites. So they left this out. And like I said, if you watch it's another movie, blockbuster movie, The Ten Commandments, and they showed in the movie how when Moses was young, how he came before the Pharaoh and presented all these Ethiopian people to him, Ethiopian slaves and Ethiopian treasures. He came and presented them to the king. So now you know why they did that, because they had this. They had us reading something else, but they was reading Jasher. Any comments?
Jasher has a lot of the missing pieces.
Right. Is there something?
Yeah.
Right. So like I was saying before, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, it's virtually impossible to. It's virtually. I mean, I'm not understanding how you got people that saying that you can't really deal with Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees. I mean, you'd be lost if you don't. And that's where we was at before we got off to these books. You'd be lost. You can't really write the divide or move forward without this information that's in these books. For another example is, we was talking earlier, a question was asked about the satire and those animals in the desert, where it tells you in Jasher, I have to find it and I'll read it, but he was telling you how these mysterious animals came out of the desert. Jasher, I think it was Israelites, somebody seen them, and they came up out the desert, but then they was ran, they was driven back into the desert, but they came up out of the desert. Which is sort of like they supernatural beings. And then like I was saying before, it's something about the desert. And when the Most High talk about the wilderness, because like I was saying in the beginning, it says that he brought the whole earth was covered with water. Then he said he brought land, he brought the land up out of the water. Well, all that land was good. All the land he brought up out of the water was good. So what happened? Something had to happen between then and now when you see deserts. Then you can't grow nothing on it. And then you see land was covered with ice. Something happened, but originally all the land he brought up out of the water was good. It was fertile. It was fruit trees and vegetation, and all that supposed to came up. So something had to happen for the earth not to be able to do what he created, formed it to do in certain areas. Something major had to happen there. And same with the desert. Like I said, especially the Sahara, it's some happened. That much land, and it's not giving forth, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So something major happened. Okay. So it says, so it's safe to say Moses was also Melchizedek, considering the sons of Cush are giants, similar to Enoch ruling over sons of man. He had the wisdom from the Most High. He was operating. He's operating, in that capacity. But I wouldn't say that he's Melchizedek, but he's operating that capacity. Yeah. And same with Joseph. They had a knowledge of the Most High. I can't remember who I was conversating with somebody, and if you go back and look at it, and when you got the knowledge and the understanding of the Most High, that brings wealth. Look at Moses. Look at Abraham. Look at all them when they had the knowledge of Joseph. They had the knowledge of the Most High and they held on to it. It brought wealth. You can't do nothing else. It's like a planting a seed in the ground. you got the knowledge of the Most High, it's gonna bring wealth. Can't nothing on this planet or in the universe stop it. So look what happened to us. We lost the knowledge of the Most High. We at the bottom of the food chain. Now that the knowledge is coming back, we slowly rising back up because knowledge is what brings the wealth. Yeah. Is there some? Anybody got anything? We got about 20 minutes. Yeah, I was asking everybody to upload that Zoom, because I think I'm gonna go in on Friday and, send out the link. It says, and there you go. Okay, all right, we gotta read that. Okay. Yeah, so anybody got anything before we go? Any questions? Something we want to talk about? Nothing?
You about covered it, bro.
Okay. All right, then. So let me hit this right quick. Okay. So I'm gonna see the women tomorrow for the women's line, and then see everybody else on Friday at 7 o'clock. Like I was saying, download that Zoom. Shalom.
Great class.
Okay.
Shalom.
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 So
Okay.
Friday will be at 7 instead of 8.
What's that?
Friday will be at 7 instead of 8.
We've been having this. 8 o'clock. Okay. Yeah, 8 o'clock. Friday.
All right.
Yeah. Shalom.